One of the themes of this set of lectures has been that the letters of the alphabet, which we tend to think of as isolated little letters on their own, are part of a larger process. So they are linked with ordering parts of our body, and in fact the motions of our body, our breathing, and cosmologically they are connected with the planets, the stars, and in fact with ordering the whole of the universe. So that letters, numbers, geometry all fit together. Now, in my Tokyo lectures, I will take all the basic numbers and do a single lecture for each number. So all the associations of 1, of 2, of 3, of 4, and so on. There's no reason to repeat all of that here, but I thought it would be useful to have a short lecture to summarize the main numbers that are used in letter making and show you some of the connections involved so that that associative process that connects letter making with speaking, but also with cosmology, will become clear. And again, this is more as a reference section than as something that you read about carefully. So the number 1 is the absolute, the beginning, the boundless, essence, eternity, infinite, mens or mind, the one, unity, unlimited, unmanifest, as and Mars. 2, well, this is all the things that are linked with 2. So in terms of who, 2 eons, Buddhas, goddesses, gods. What, 2 animals, classes, cows, and elements, eyes, hands, letters, lights, paths, pillars, principles, souls, spokes, trees. Where, 2 dimensions, dots, mountains, olams, realms, streams. When, 2 ages, olams, phases, seasons, stages. And finally 2 qualities. 3, well, I'm not going to read all of this out. I don't want to put you asleep immediately, but the 3 Buddhas, the 3 deities, the 3 devas, the 3 fates, the 3 holies, the 3 Ishwaris, the 3 Marys, the 3 Magi, and the same with the 3 bodies, the 3 cauldrons, the 3 energies, the 3 elements, the 3 garments of the soul, the 3 internal organs, the 3 lights, the 3 legs, which then gives me the Dreifuß and also the symbol of the island of Sicily. And similarly for where, 3 dimensions, 3 domains, 3 kingdoms, mountains, oceans, peaks, places, plains, realms, Shakti temples, spheres, suns, terraces, worlds, streams. And when, so 3 nights, 3 phases of the day, 3 phases of the moon, 3 phases of time, 3 seasons, 3 stages of civilization. And the same with 4. Again, there's no sense in reading all of this. I will just mention some of them. So the 4 archangels, the 4 chemical gods, the 4 devas, the 4 dragon kings, the 4 evangelists, the 4 forces, the 4 mages, the 4 matriarchs, the 4 names of God, the 4 sons of light, the 4 sons of perfection, the 4 under what, the 4 aces, the 4 animals, the 4 cups of wine, the 4 doorways, the 4 elephants, the 4 seals of the law, the 4 circles, and the 4 cubits. And in fact, when we get to the next lecture, I'll show you that the swastika, which among other things, is a way of dividing the world into four bits. And so then we have the four abodes of God, the four continents, the 4 feet of Brahma, the 4 mythical cities, the 4 quadrants, the 4 royal stars, which become then the 4 evangelists, and then the 4 ages, the 4 breaths, the 4 days, the 4 nadikas, the 4 seconds, the 4 weeks, the 4 seasons, the 4 yugas. And 5, well, again, here the who becomes particularly important, but we have the 5 fruits, the 5 leaves, the 5 syllables, and then the panchas, so the panchratna, the panchdhatu, the panchmahabhutas, the panchaloka, the panchamurtis, and so on, and the 5 energies, the 5 organs, the 5 directions, the 5 lokas, the portals of Bon, and there's a whole 5 symbolism. 6, of course, gives you the 6-pointed star. It gives you the hexagram. It gives you the star of Vishnu, the star of David, the star of Solomon. But it also gives you, in Hindu cosmology, then Kartika's 6 heads, the 6 chakras, the 6 hands, the 6 impure sounds, the 6 zodiac signs, the 6 elements, the 6 gates, the 6 creations, the 6 deva planes, the 6 directions, the 6 Kartikeya sites, the 6 positions, realms, regions, seasonal feasts, the 6 azus, beats, Mayan minutes, months of creation, and seasons. Well, 7 again. 7 becomes, where in India it's 3 and 7, 3, 5, and 7, that's important. In the West, the 7 becomes the key number for arranging things in the Bible. So there are 7 days of the week, 7 angels, 7 archangels, 7 kings, 7, well, in India, 7 matrikas, 7 rulers, 7 spirits, virgins, wise men, candlesticks, churches, crowns, heads, horns, lambs, lamps, plagues, seals, stars, thunders, trumpets, words, mountains, planets, days, months, years, generations. 8 becomes particularly important in the Buddhist world. Well, also 6 because of the 6 worlds, but 8 because of the Eightfold Path. And then in terms, and each of the 8, we have the 4 cardinal points and then the 4 quarter points. That gives you 8 points in the year. Those get linked with 8 Adityas, or 8 Bhairavas, or 8 Bodhisattvas, or 8 Dakinis, or 8 demons, or 8 divine mothers, goddesses, gods, guardians, healing gods, immortals, kinds of medicine Buddhas, noble ones, Vasus, Vasinis, Vidyasvaras, yoginis, zodiac patrons, and then Eightfold Path, 8 hands, heads, inner fears, legs, parts of the body, essences, vices, Ganeshas, trunks, bonfires. It almost sounds like a poem, but it's fascinating because by these very simple numbers and then repeating them and then giving them names, you are really organizing the whole of the universe. And 9, similarly, well, there are 9 apexes of Perun's tree, 9 energy centers, 9 bodies of white man, 9 books of knowledge, 9 chakras, 9 elements in Russia, 9 emanations, 9 feasts, 9 forms of consciousness, 9 initiations, 9 months in Russia, 9 pieces in the sense of mir, 9-pointed star, psychostructures, 9 sons of Perun, a 9-stave matrix, 9 Vedic universes, 9 boar jaws. And then in the Norse world, There are 9 babies, charms, fire mothers, glory twigs, heads, herbs, locks, maidens, knights, rings, runes, staves, surviving deities, thralls, trees. You could really, you start to get into the thing. You feel you should be making this all rhyme. Odinic mysteries and 9-year cycles. In the Chinese, 9 dragons, great emperors, 9 halls diagram, heavens, mountains, and orders of nobility, ranks of officers and stars. 10, well, 10 is important because it's, if you do your 9 magic squares, then 10 is the culmination. And in the Indian world, 10 gets linked with the limits or the limitations. So the god Ravana has 10 heads to prove that he knows an enormous amount, but it's not enough. And so ultimately Ravana has to be symbolically killed, not because he doesn't know anything, he knew more than every other person for a while, but because ultimately it's not yet the next fulfillment. Now, some people link this with the shift from creating a world with 10 zodiac signs, or 10 months, and then moving to 12. So again, we have 10 Adigurus, we have 10 angels, 10 antediluvian patriarchs, 10 archangels, 10 avatars of Vishnu, 10 choirs of angels, 10 cosmo-creators, 10 Druze forms of God, 10 existences, 10 forms of Agni, 10 forms of the Yazata Beram, 10 god names, 10 goddesses, 10 gods, 10 lepers, 10 letter name of God, 10 light Yuthras, 10 lords of death, 10 mind-born sons of Brahma, 10 names of God, 10 names of G-D, God when you can't actually, not allowed to say the name. 10 powers, Prajapatis, principles, rulers, sons of Manu, virgins, Visvadevas, watchers, wives. And then at a lower level, animals, arms, elements, eyes, fires, heads, parts, paths, perfections, bhumis, petals, pillars, postures, principles, senses, sephiroth, sounds, steps, tribes, stages of initiation, wholesome acts, and even zodiac signs, 10 directions, and so on. Now 11, the same principle, except 11 is this curious one. In the Indian cosmos, it's still positive because the lesser is always one less than the higher. So if you have 12 as the higher, then 11 is the not quite higher. So the Rudras are 11 and the Adityas are 12. The Rudras are noisy and disputing and fighting, whereas the Adityas are the supporting and the creative and helpful. So you have 11 air gods, celestial beings, fire, destroyer gods, fallen angels, goddesses, gods, Rudras, rulers, sacred pools, wives of the Rudras, and souls. 11 consonants, divisions, elements of the sign, heads, internal organs, letters, mental states, principles, semi-vowels, senses, stages, vowels, qubits. 11 realms, 11 circuit labyrinth. 11 divisions of the day and 11 days, which then gets expanded to the 12 days when we go from the 10 months to the 12 months. Well, 12, needless to say, is, because it's linked with the zodiac, becomes one of the key numbers. So we have 12 Adityas, Aeons, Alvars, angels, apostles, archangels, archons, authorities, celestial counterparts, deities, deva guardians, devas, devotees, disciples, faces, generals, goddesses, gods, guardians, heavenly generals, heavenly gods, imams, judges, kings, knights, minor prophets, Naga kings, officers on duty, Olympian gods, orders of the blessed spirits, powers, prophets, protectors, rulers, rule gods, sons, spiritual beings, titans, tribes, virtues, and yakra, yakshas. And then 12 alchemical processes, banners of Yahweh, baskets, causes, Christian principles, contemplations, deeds, foundations, tattvas, impure sounds, jewels, kinds of fruit, lameds, letters, mirrors, pearls, pentagons, and so on and so forth. And so really, I feel like the Creator himself as I'm reading this out, because if you can order all of this, then you really have got these extraordinary things. And our journey, all too quick through the alphabet, has been constantly showing how those isolated letters link up with all of these things. I'll do one more and then we'll take a little pause as we go to the next one. So 13 Buddhas, gods, Yolasviras, 13 attributes of mercy, Archimedean solids, ascetic practices, circles, degrees of knowledge, letters, a 13-level spire, nadis, pearls, postures, dvipas, gates, heavens, cycles, months, moons, and phases of the moon. And then, curiously enough, the stupas have then 13 sections above them. Now, the moon is very interesting because you used to have 13 moons and 13 trees and then 13 letters. And as you moved from a lunar calendar to a solar calendar, then suddenly the letter 13 became one of those unlucky numbers, and it slowly got suppressed. So similarly with 14, we have 14 gods, disciples, manus, 14 animals, candles, cards, channels, divisions, elements, functions, letters, mental states, nadis, organs, pieces, precious things, sounds, sciences, triangles, wheels, words, worlds, worlds of constellations. And in fact, Vishnu is divided into 14 worlds of constellations. And then 14 days, 14 manvantaras, and 14 years. 15 gives me the letter YH in terms of its gematria, the devil, 15 azus, deities, gems, kalas, letters, petals, plants, stars, systems, tithis. It's a number of evil because 6, 15, and 24 are on the path of Rahu. We'll come to that in the next lecture. Constellations, days, muhurtas, nights, and nityas. 16 is one of the smallest numbers for the original alphabets. In fact, there are some claims that the original alphabet of all was 16 letters. There are 16 angels, demigods, disciples, gods, rulers. Ifa, Lalita, Kala, and Visakha are all connected with 16. 16 arms, categories, channels, eyes, forms, geometric figures, great signs, halls, hands, letters, nuts of divination, Odu, Ofun principles, palm nuts, pearls, petals, primary letters, rays, runes, runic channels, samskaras, sounds, squares, stars, strings, tetragrams, torches, vowels, ways, wells, wheels, the jed, the foundation, the eye or the fountain, the 16 realms, kalas, nityas, and phases of the moon. So the nityas are important for Tripura Sundari as well, because it's on the 16th day of the moon that it's not just full, but it's the one where life comes in its plenitude, and that's why in most versions there are 16 vowels. 17 jivas, it's linked with Lucifer. 17 pen strokes, particles, sequences, shapes, strokes, trays. 17 holy places linked with the morning star. 18. 18 attendants of the sun, lawgivers, patriarchs, sons, animals, arms, benefits, breaths, eggs, kinds of insight, letters, Mahapuranas, 18 patterns of Dekan, petals, runes, sciences, siddhas, sounds, steps, Upapuranas, constellations, domains, months, nimeshas, years. 19. The goddess Eve, the Gramatria for 100. Energy centers, hexagons, letters, mental states, postures, runes, spokes, stances, stones, tetromenos, visible dots on a cube of 2. Yods, 19 as a hexagon, 100 terms. Breath, 19-year cycle of the sun in 19 years. 20 uthras, gunas, names, arms, kin, letters, terms, nomes of Lower Egypt, so that's the equivalent of nakshatras, places, dates, katon, picton, tun. These are now divisions of time amongst the Maya. 21. Names, taras, chakras, consonants, forms, letters, Puranas, separate art forms, threads, types of offerings, visibly different roles of 2 identical dice, constellations, places, days, years. 22, well, we saw that's an extremely important number in the alphabet because of the 22-letter alphabets. Names, gods, books, cards, chromosomes, herbs, letters, notes, parts of the body, petals, signs, sounds, spokes, stages, stars, trumps, 1 is enough. 22 works of creation, tamgas, tribes, letters, postures, runes, mansions, paths, places, sacred wells, dates, events, generations. 24. Well, 24 avatars, elders, kings, names, patriarchs, seniors, sons, Trantakas, tribes, Vayuas, alphabets, in terms of cipher alphabets, arms, cards, channels, chi, connections, crowns, cube matrix, diagnostic elements, divisions, elements, faces, 24-fold matrix, gunas, hands, hieroglyphs, knots, letters, mountains, mudras, petals, pieces, pillars, postures, runes, spokes, stoicheia, strings, syllables, tamgas, tattvas, directions, sights, 24 modes of conditionality and logic. 25 different ways of writing Yahweh, perfect man, 26 geometrical elements, 26 letters, postures, runes, signs, tamgas, the word Havaya, the world of complete and concrete manifestation. 27 Gandharvas, wives, beads, bones, circles, cubes, letters, runes, terms, virtues, constellations, nakshatras, places, yogas, days, 27-year cycle, 27 Kataryugas, 27 symbolism, 28 Buddhas, guardians, names, alphabets of the moon, breaths, camps, dots, letters, postures, runes, spokes, steps, Arabic mansions, constellations, Sioux, places, nakshatras, stars, dates, days, phases of the moon, and 28-year cycles. 29, alchemical processes, letters, runes, signs, tamgas, and al-muqatat. 30, eons, letters, degrees, and this is particularly important for time. So days, great days, kalas, kalpas, kashtas, months, muhurtas, 30-year cycle, and 30 years. And 30 is important because it's a combination of 8, called the Ogdoad. So these 8 here, linked with a decad of 10, linked with a duodecad of 12. So 8 plus 10 is 18, plus 12 gives me 30. And these become the the 30 Valentinian eons or eternities. And if you look at the names, I start with the Bethos, the deep, and CJ, silent, so the male and the female. That goes to the nous, and so the mind and truth, the word and life, primal man and the church, leading then to the deep and mingling, and union, the self-begotten and pleasure, the immovable and mixture, the daily, the only begotten and the blessed, and then the consoler and faith, the paternal and hope, the maternal and love, the ever-flowing and understanding, the ecclesiastical and blessedness, the ordained and wisdom. And so here we have then Christian concepts like faith, hope, and love, but they are now words, but these are also words that have their own gematria again, and by speaking out these words, we create the universe in the Valentinian order. 31 gives me the 31 Canaanite kings, 31 letters, runes, planes, realms, regions, and that links up then with the 31 realms or worlds of the Buddhas. 32 gives me the eons, deities, gods, names of Ganesha, arms, concepts, degrees, forms, guilds, hands, nadis, nerves, paths, petals, principles, realms, spinal segments, stories, strings, teeth, threads, heavens, paths, realms, interpretations. And here are the 32 deities linked with the 32 metaphysical constructs, which then in other contexts get linked with 32 letters. And those become, or parallel with that, we have the 33 deities of Guya Maya and the 32 deities of Manichaeanism, which then also get linked with 32 stages of enlightenment and 32 letters again. So the ordering of the letters is an ordering of the names of God, is an ordering of the stages of enlightenment, the stages of creation, and like the path in the amongst the Shaivites, it becomes a path. Not only the downward path is the path towards the material creation of the material universe. The upward path is the return to be linked with God, or with Shiva and Shakti. 33 gives me the 33 devas, gods, heavenly deities and names, beads, cantos, cards, consonants, heads, letters, paths, phyla, runes, stages, structures, tamgas, tattvas, heavens, planes, realms, sites, stars, vertebrae, days and years. And of course, it's 33 times 9. That gives me 297 for the Aryabhata version of the alphabet, which I just remind you of very quickly here without expecting that you recite it backwards for tomorrow morning. Here then the 36 gods, names, tribes, wise individuals, the 36 azus, breaths, cards, consonants, decans, divisions, because you'll see this is then the 12 signs times 3. The knots, letters, lights, ragas, runes, stages, stones, syllables, tattvas, terms, virtues, decans, places, sites, stars. Some of those are repeating, I think 36 cycles, hours, minutes, and symbolism. And of course, 36 times 2 gives me 72, which plus 36 gives me 108. And we're starting to see a pattern here. And 3 plus 7 gives me 10, but 37 gives me the 37 basic energy systems, the 37 bukvitsi, or letters, 37 factors of enlightenment, hexagrams, letters, moons, postures, practices of a bodhisattva, runes, signs, tamgas, tribes, as a hexagon, as a star, 111 by 3, the terms for B, the gematria for 37, and the number 37. 48 is the next one. 48 constellation, cubits, divisions of Sri Yantra, geometrical elements, conjunctions, letters, postures. So each, in each of these, the letters and the postures are similar because each of the letters has a mudra, each of the letter has a posture, which is like a mudra for the body. And then, of course, if I speak it, it becomes a mantra, and if I speak it in terms of a god, then it's a yantra. 50 daughters, matrikas, sons, gates of intelligence, of light, of understanding, of wisdom, heads, 50 heads in the garland of Kali, letters of Sanskrit, mental state, parts of the body of Ganesha, 50 sounds, days, divine years, and a whole 50 symbolism. 51 heads in the garland of Kali, heads, letters of Sanskrit, pieces of sati, sacred sites, or the pithas, and then the Shakti pithas, another way. And of course, 51 Ganeshas. 52 cards, degrees, divisions, letters, pieces, stages, weeks, years, and again a whole symbolism. 56 cards, letters, pillars, planes, squares, threads. 60 daughters, bones, degrees, steps, places, azus, dates. 64, so 8 times 8, celestial masters, combinations of Yahweh, names, patriarchs, yoginis, arms, changes, cubes. So it's 8 times 8 cubes, of course. Divisions, faces, hands, letters, practical arts, secret arts, squares, strings, tantras, triangles, and kalas. 72. Angels, assistants, arms, Buddhas, children, chieftains, daughters, deities, disciples, elders, families, geniuses, gods, illuminates, letters, name of God, names, races, rulers, scholars, sons, spirit, translators, virgins, and wicked men. Alphabets, channels, chambers, divisions, languages, notes, pillars, runes, sacred threads of Kushti, especially in Iran, and in the Sufi tradition, sections of the yasna, stars, steps, stones, lands, monuments, stupas, beats, breaths, minutes, hours, days, years, yugas. I'm almost getting out of breath. Degrees, ragas, postures, and so on. 81, 9 times 9, 81 circles, 81 compartments, letters, low shu tones, scales of the dragon, squares, strings, tetragrams, and 81 insights into the Tao Te Ching. And there's 81, I think, poems in the Tao Te Ching. 108, well, it's almost senseless to repeat this, but for people not from this part, there are 108 Avalokiteshvaras, or goddesses of mercy, Buddhas, deities, gods, gopis, names, arms, beads, cards, channels, divisions, faces, heads, letters, padas, pieces, pillars, stairs, stars, steps, strings, temptations, Upanishads, virtues, abodes, modes, Shiva lingas, temples, water spouts, degrees, tones, postures, and yugas. 111 is the geometrical form of the Sri Yantra. It's also the aspects of the Sri Yantra. It's the number of Basileus, the Greek word for king, Latin rex. It's the cybernetic god at the beginning of wisdom, the complete yang, the eye and the triangle, the Pythagorean tritractus, and the kutub, the dot that I make when I'm writing, which also becomes the pillar in Sanskrit. In Arabic, sorry, 256 is 16 times 16, and that becomes one of the key numbers. Well, because 16 is a 4 by 4 square to begin with, 256 letters, Odu, which are forces in Africa, runes, syllables, and wings. 288 gives me breaths, fallen sparks, yods, offerings, letters that were there, fallen sparks in the breaking of the vessels, the kingdom of heaven, the palm tree attributes, the tzaddik, and so on. and doubled that 288, and I got 576 sparks, yods, square feet, breaths, seconds, days, and years. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just the beginning of a course on number symbolism. We haven't got time for 576 lectures and all the ones in between. This was just to give you a glimpse into the way in which the letter-making process, which was the focus of our talk, but which was linked all along with the metaphysical process of, on the one hand, the letters, the spoken letters create the world. The speaking is what keeps us, well, makes us alive and keeps us alive through breathing and then through our motions. And that through this process, we then learn to order the world through linking the letters and sounds with shapes and with numbers. And these are just some of the associations that make up what we now think of cosmology, religion, and language in the form of alphabets. This is a much bigger story, well, that is really the story of all of human life. But this is not a final course. This is just a first appetizer to show you the forgotten links of the words and sounds that we make each day and that most of us just take for granted as a simple ABC. Thank you very much.